I'm not raising anybody's taxes, but here's what's not fair. We have hardworking Americans, they're paying all these taxes, our retirees pay them. Who's not? We've got some billionaires not paying it. And we got people that want free government stuff and they don't want to have any skin in the game.
I mean,
that's not fair.
If people pay like even $100 in taxes a year, $10, at least you know that's what it is, paying taxes, and you don't want people to get bankrupt, obviously.
That was Republican Senator Rick Scott, who has decided to double down on his proposal to raise taxes not on the rich, but specifically on the lowest earners in society who typically have such little income that they are not paying federal income taxes. Because as you heard in that video, we've got some billionaires who don't pay taxes, but let's push them aside for a second and let's focus on low income individuals who want free government handouts. That is his target. Now, what's fascinating about this story is the fact that he has chosen to double down on this insane policy of targeting low income Americans when he got slapped down by a member of his own party, specifically Senator Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader. Now, before we get to his response to it, I think it's worth giving you a little more context about what Rick Scott is trying to do here. Last month, Scott unveiled a plan that stipulated that, quote, all Americans should pay some income tax to have skin in the game, even if it is a small amount. Currently, over half of Americans pay no income tax. And look, they have been public enemy #1 for the Republican Party. Mitt Romney really got into hot water back during the 2012 presidential elections when he decided to attack the 47% of Americans who pay nothing in federal income taxes. Turns out targeting the poor is not really a popular political strategy, even among Republican voters. Now, when asked on Fox News if Rick Scott wanted to raise taxes on most Americans last month, Scott straight up lied by saying his plan would not do that. He received no pushback from host Sean Hannity. And as you could see in the video we showed you earlier, he also received no pushback from Laura Ingraham when he opened by saying that he's not trying to raise taxes on anybody. He's trying to raise taxes on the most vulnerable people in the country. Now, again, Rick Scott's proposal is so toxic that even people like Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell have slapped it down and done so publicly. Now, before we get to his explanation for why he's against this, there was a press conference where Rick Scott had some statements, he made some statements, and then he ran away before Mitch McConnell can slap him down. Let's watch.
So I hope all of us do our part to do everything we can to hold Putin accountable and make sure the Ukrainian citizens keep their independence.
Leader McConnell, can I ask you about Senator Rick Scott? He's introduced an agenda that Democrats have seized on, includes tax increases. It's been very controversial. I wonder what your thoughts on this are.
Well, Senator Scott is behind me and he can address the issue of his particular measure.
No, gone. He's gone. Rick Scott's like, oh no, he's about to come after me. He's about to slap this down. It's going to be embarrassing. Gone. But I love how Mitch McConnell's like, Rick Scott's right behind me. He could answer this question. Nope, gone.
Yeah, he's not behind you, brother. So they're having an internal fight about probably about who's going to lead the Republican Party in the Senate. And so Rick Scott has decided to go the extra mile and say, hey, you know what? It's not enough that we gave everything to the rich. Now we have to actively rob the poor. We have to take money out of their pockets. And even the heart of darkness, Sith Lord Mitch McConnell's like, that might be a bridge too far. They might, not because he's worried about robbing the poor. He's basically been doing that in an institutional way for decades. He's like, I think they're gonna catch us.
No, he's way savvier. Look, Mitch McConnell is more dangerous than Rick Scott. Rick Scott is a dopey MFer, okay? Where he's like, I'm gonna attack the poor. I mean, isn't that a winning political strategy? It's actually miraculous that he's gotten this far in his political career, considering how incredibly stupid he is. With that said though, Mitch McConnell's like, we can rob him, but can we just rob him in a smart way where it's like covert, it's not so out in the open?
Yeah, and we'll get all the cable news anchors to agree with us and call it bipartisan. Instead, you're giving away the game here, right? And so look, to be fair to Rick Scott, He's a blunt instrument, and it's worked throughout his life. So when he was the CEO of Columbia HCA, they did the largest Medicare and Medicaid fraud in American history. They were convicted for it. They had to pay a $1.7 billion fine, which means that they actually made more than that. And you could tell they made more than that because they paid Rick Scott, the criminal who did that largest fraud in American history, they paid him $300 million. So Rick Scott, to be fair to him, says, look, I robbed American taxpayers. Literally, I did the largest robbery of the American taxpayer at the country had ever seen at that point. And I got paid $300 million for it. There was no consequences. I just became stinking rich.
Yep.
And because there's no rule of law, the rich can do anything in America. And then he said, on top of that, I ran for governor twice, I ran for the Senate, and these idiot Democrats couldn't beat me. I'm one of the biggest criminals in American history, and the Democrats had no chance of beating me. I beat them silly each time. Every time I see Rick Scott, by the way, I think that's a walking poster for the failure of the Democratic Party. I mean, they could.
How do you not find an effective way of messaging to the American people that this man committed this, he just stole. He stole from US taxpayers. Like, how do you not make that abundantly clear to voters? They're terrible at all of this.
So to be fair to Rick Scott, he might be right. He might be telling McConnell, you're being too subtle. Just go, steal the goddamn money, put it in our pockets. I've done it before. That's how I got to be I think he's the richest guy in the Senate.
Oh my God.
So
look at that lower third, out with the old, in with the new.
Oh.
It's amazing. Let me just explain to you guys what the new strategy actually is among the Republicans. It's a lie, but it's the phony right-wing populism. The rhetoric implying that they understand the economic frustrations that Americans are feeling, but their solutions are basically to continue doing what they've been doing when it comes to their economic policy, but really doubling down on the ethno-nationalism, right? Ensuring that we close our borders, don't allow any person of color to come in. That's really what their solutions are. I mean, just listen to Tucker Carlson. I think he's pretty transparent about that. Now, with that said, after Rick Scott had run away, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell did decide to slap down the policy that's being proposed by Rick Scott. And pay close attention to what he says here, because it goes beyond raising taxes on low-income earners. Let's watch.
And let me tell you what would not be a part of our agenda. We will not have as part of our agenda a bill that raises taxes on half of the American people and sunsets Social Security and Medicare within 5 years. That will not be part of a Republican Senate majority agenda.
I love the people behind Mitch McConnell, because as he says that, there's a lot of like, really? Are you really saying this? Because he doesn't, look, Mitch McConnell would love nothing more than to allow for Social Security and Medicare to essentially go away, to sunset. And the way that happens is by ensuring that you cut the funding to those programs, by refusing to rework our tax system to ensure that wealthy people pay their fair share. Remember, Rick Scott is not focusing on the billionaires who are evading their taxes. He's focusing on the large percent of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck, who are below the poverty line, who don't pay federal income tax because they don't have the means to pay federal income tax. That's who they're targeting. So if you don't fix the injustice within our tax system and ensure that the tax evaders at the very top pay their taxes, what happens to the social spending programs that we do have?
Now this is sick, man. I don't know how long we can continue this without some sort of rebellion, because the Republicans just did a $2 trillion tax cut for the richest people in the country when Trump was in office. Now they're turning around and half of them are saying, since we lost all that revenue because we let the rich take everything, let's just get it from the bottom 50%.
It's insane.
Let's just hit them again and again and again. Let's take every dollar that they have and give it to the rich. That's who the Republican Party is, while they claim to be populist. What a joke! A party of the rich, by the rich, for the rich. Rick Scott is a perfect model for them. A guy who robbed American taxpayers to get his ill-begotten gains. and is now celebrated by Republicans as he attacks the poor and the middle class in this country. But as I see that, if Trump is ascended, Rick Scott will probably be the next leader of the Republicans in the Senate, and that'll be the end of Mitch McConnell. They'll say you were too subtle in your robbery. Just go through the front doors, rob all the money. They're not gonna do a goddamn thing about it. Besides which, all of the media is in our back pocket. They'll tell them, oh, don't worry, the stock market's going up, the economy's doing great.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.